Hello class and welcome to week 3. This week we're going to be looking at bipolar and related disorders and also schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders. This week you're going to be reading about those in the sections of the DSM that are assigned to you, and also there's a video that you're going to watch. To supplement your learning this week, I've also included 2 additional videos. One is a video of a woman who is living with bipolar disorder. It's a tad bit dated, but I think that she does a good job talking to her symptoms and what she's going through, particularly when she's in the depressed part of her diagnosis. The second video is a TED Talk from a young lady who's speaking to her diagnosis of schizophrenia. And the reason why I selected this video for you all to watch, if you have the chance, is because it very much humanizes an individual with the diagnosis that many people are afraid of or have misconceptions about. She speaks very candidly, not only to her symptoms, but how she is a person. And I think it's important to remember and recognize that. I think in our society, we do a good job dehumanizing others to the extent that we make a person only their diagnosis. For example, someone will say, oh, she's so bipolar, or you have to excuse him, he's borderline. And I always try to correct that language when I'm out with friends and family. I charge you to do the same, and even if you were to slip up in your journal entries or your discussion videos, I would also encourage you to think of the individual as more than a diagnosis. And so we say that the client is an individual with a schizophrenia diagnosis, or a client is an individual with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. And it just helps to recognize that an individual, again, is much more than their diagnosis. So those videos, I think, will help give you a little bit more insight from the client's perspective, what it might be like living with the diagnosis. This week, it's different. We have 2 discussion videos, discussion video-based tools. The first, you're going to be doing a discussion video on bipolar 2 disorder and depression and what that might look like clinically. The second is a Q&A tool where you'll be responding to a mock client named Jonathan. I think it's important to remind you, or to let you know, last term when I taught this class, we ran into some issues with this tool, and you don't have an unlimited time to do it. I believe when you open up the tool, you have about 15 minutes to get through it. So essentially, I had students last term who opened it up and kind of walked away from their computer, and the video timed out, and what happened was their response did not get recorded. And so when you're ready to do the tool, sit down and do it. And you'll have, I think there are 4 questions. So the client will say one thing and you have to respond. Very similar to your COU-650 final, if you remember that. And so those are your assignments for this week. The quote this week comes from Kay Redfield Jamison. She wrote a book, The Unquiet Mind, and she chronicles her life with bipolar disorder. And I think that it's important, again, to recognize not only the depression of bipolar disorder, but also the mania. And again, in popular society, people think mania is like a fun thing. And oftentimes when clients are in a manic state, I do think they would prefer that state better because you have a lot of energy, you have ideas. This is where you might be creative. And at the same time, there are other symptoms too, or there are other behaviors that accompany that. Excessiveness, risky purchases. I had a client who, when she was manic, flew to Las Vegas and became a prostitute. And when her manic phase ended, she came on back to Virginia and was ready to resume her treatment. And so it can be quite challenging. I had another client, in his manic phase, he was going about 110 miles per hour on a 35-mile-per-hour road in the small town that we were living in. And so there's an increase in risky behavior. You feel on top of the world, boundless energy, but with accompanying that are also some danger. Some danger is involved with that. And so that's important to keep in mind. So those are your assignments for this week. That's your quote for this week. Let me know if you have any questions. If your Q&A tool is not working, please reach out to me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your discussion videos and responding to that. Anything else? I think I want to also remind you that as you watch this TED Talk about schizophrenia and her hallucinations and the things that she's seeing, I hope that you can watch it from an empathic point of view and really thinking about what clients really do struggle with or deal with. And she talked about winning an Oscar for acting normal. And I think it's very powerful. But I will be curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.